The town of Skulltooth. The Old West was famous for its blood history. Deadwood, South Dakota, San Antonio, Texas, Tombstone, Arizona. There were many dangerous, lawless towns. In some cases, the town sheriff was the most powerful person. He maintained law and order. But not every town had a sheriff. Skulltooth, Oklahoma, for example. Skulltooth had no sheriff, no laws, and no rules. It was not civilized at all. Every did what they wanted. Gambling, fighting, drinking, and other vices took place all day and all night, 7 days a week. Most days somebody was murdered before breakfast or during breakfast. Yet the town continued to grow every year, and every year a new criminal would arrive and try to take control. They would try to become the boss of Skulltooth, the boss of everyone who lived there. To control the crime, you had to be tougher than the other criminals. To make money, you had to want it more than the others. That is why the bosses never lived long. They were always killed and replaced until one late autumn day, architects came to town. The people who lived there, the citizens of Skulltooth, knew he was bad news. They could tell when he rode his horse into town. His horse was pale, whiter than a sheet. His face was tough like leather, his skin tanned from the sun. Under his nose was a giant black mustache. The mustache dropped down past his lips. His eyebrows were as bushy as his mustache. Where do you think that man came from? The store owner asked his friend. His friend owned the bar across the street. The bar was named the Windy Plains Saloon. He is not from around here, said the bar owner. He looks like a foreigner. Well, Marty, what country do you think he's from? Marty raised his hand. He didn't know. The store owner looked at Tex. Tex was tying his white horse to a post. The sun was setting and the wind had turned cold. Tex took out a small container. He took some tobacco from it and rolled a cigarette. He bent his head to light a cigarette. His large brown cowboy hat covered his eyes. When he looked back up, Tex was looking at Marty, the bar owner. Who is watching your bar if you are sitting over there? He asked. His accent was very thick. He sounded like he was from the Middle East. He would never tell anyone in town, but his family had immigrated from the Ottoman Empire. In fact, his nickname Erkek meant man in Turkish. I try to stay outside, Murray said. In my bar, customers take what they want and pay what they want. Otherwise, there is trouble. What do you mean, trouble? I mean, they have shot the last 3 owners of the Windy Plains Saloon. Go back to your bar, Tex said. I am going inside, and I don't like to pour my own drinks. The bar owner looked at Tex. Tex was not a large man, but he wasn't too small. He had some muscles, but his body was lean. There were guns on both of his hips. Stranger, Murray said, I will go over there, but don't start shooting people. I don't want any trouble. I don't make any trouble either, Tex said. That is why there will not be any. The bar owner, who was also the bartender, the man who served drinks, walked across the street. Inside the Windy Plains Saloon, there were a dozen men. Some of them were playing a game of cards. Some were sitting in chairs at tables, holding glasses or bottles, A few were sitting at the long wooden bar counter talking in loud voices. When they saw the bar owner walk in, they stopped. "Get out of here, Marty," said one of the men at the bar counter. He was tall and had curly brown hair and a brown beard. His clothes were torn and he smelled terrible. He stood up from his stool. "We're putting our money on the counter. We're taking what we want to drink, so we don't need you." "That's all right," the bar owner said. "I just came to check on things." The curly-haired man, whose nickname was Curly, walked over. He put his hand on Marty's chest and he said, "We don't need you. There is nothing for you to check on. You can leave now." Curly's friend laughed. "Yeah. Leave us alone, you old man." Marty frowned and turned to go back out, but then Eric Tex walked through the doors. Tex looked at the man with curly hair. "Bartender," said Tex in a very deep voice, "I have ridden many miles today. I'm very thirsty. Stop standing around and go give me a drink." Curly spit on the floor. "I am not the bartender." "Then where's the bartender?" "I am tired of waiting." Curly pointed at Marty. "There is the bartender, but we don't want him in here." "That is fine," Tex said. "If he's leaving, then you can get my drink. Now." Curly pulled out his gun and pointed at Tex. "Nobody talks to me like." The sound of a gun firing echoed in the bar. Curly fell to the ground dead. "Was gonna be the bartender?" Tex asked, with the gun in his hand smoking. Everyone pointed at Marty.